everyone, welcome to today's video. I'm headed back to the 100-acre wood to make another Winnie the Pooh character, and today I am making Tigger. Tigger is a ball of energy, very energetic, very enthusiastic, and for those reasons, I feel like that is the character people would reference when they're describing me. Simply because over the years, I've had lots of people question how I've had so much energy when to me it doesn't feel like that much energy at all. Also, I put a lot of value into being enthusiastic about what I do, and even if I'm working on things that don't necessarily strike me as interesting, I will find something interesting about it so that way I'm engaged. Which is how I've managed to stay in places that aren't necessarily within my interests, but I'm not just sitting there bored out of my mind the entire time, yeah. When I was younger, they released the Tigger movie, and out of the various movies that Disney released involving the 100-acre wood, that one is my favorite. When I rewatched it last, it was shorter than I was expecting it to be, but it is such a touching, endearing story about how Tigger is excited that he's the only one, but then he realizes if he's the only one, then he's all alone. And what about his family? Where's his family? And it turns out the other characters of the 100-acre wood are his family, and there's just some banger songs in there too. And I'm just very excited to be making Tigger. Woohoo! Tigger, that spells Tigger. Woohoo! I mean, you look at this, you know it's Tigger. That being said, sometimes when you go through the creation process, the process reflects the temperament of the character, and especially towards the end there, making Tigger was both messy and dangerous, much like the actual character. Now, you may have noticed I had to put on a bunch of felt stripes in order to get the actual thing. When I was putting it on, I was using hot glue. I think the book said fabric glue, but I don't have fabric glue, I have hot glue. And so I did burn my fingers a couple times. My fingers aren't very happy about that. And you could say, well, Becky, don't you know there are such a thing as low temperature hot glue guns? I do. And I own one. But that's not the one I used. I used the most recent one in my collection. I'm waiting for it to dry now. And yes, I know this is like super long and flabby and whatnot. But I figure if the glue stick is super long, I can get a lot of use out of them. It's a practicality thing. And then you may be wondering what this nonsense was. So this was born out of practicality. I knew I had to make a bunch of stripes out of black felt, but I didn't really have a good marker alternative to drawing the stripes onto the black felt. I made the original cartoons. This dates back to Renaissance times, where a lot of the Renaissance artists, they wouldn't draw straight on the wall first. They would actually plan it out on paper, and then they would poke holes in the paper, and then they would take charcoal, and when it was ready to become a fresco, they would actually take the cartoon and put the charcoal over the paper like this and create a transfer. Da Vinci was one of the ones who did this, and that's how they would transfer it. And I got middling success. Unfortunately, chalk is a very messy material. I'm not going to show a picture of it now, but my pants, which I just changed into, now look like I have been near a volcano. But this is my art history degree in action. This is why art history degree is useful, so you can have lateral thinking like this. Learn about how the artist did. I did attempt to count how many of the different stripes I would need, but I think I made a miscalculation somewhere because I did not have to count nearly as many as I counted. Either that or I didn't understand the instructions. I do have a leftover large stripe, and towards the end there it's like, you know, I don't really care about the sizes. I'm just gonna put the stripes approximately where I believe they belong. I mean, they still work. This was an odd thing, an odd instruction to give whiskers. I've never done this to a stuffed animal before, and I thought it was kind of stupid when I was doing it, but now that I've done it, I can see the appeal. I don't typically think of Tigger as having whiskers. When I'm looking at the actual picture of Tigger here, the whiskers look really stupid. I think they look better on mine. And there was like a couple points with the pattern. Overall, the pattern itself was relatively easy to follow. There was one point with the leg that I didn't think the numbers added up, but then I realized that they did. But it took me a moment to think that through. The important question is, can you replicate the stripes without felt? And I believe the answer to that is yes. You could absolutely create like a quick crochet stripe, or you could incorporate color changes, but I feel in this case felt was probably better for the stripes to make it look closer to the way that Tigger actually looks. Because if you're buying a book like this in a kit, chances are you're relatively new to crochet. Theoretically, a kit is more likely to appeal to someone who is looking to learn a new skill. And while putting color changes into Tigger was possible like that, I feel that would have made the pattern much more difficult than it would have needed to be in order to appeal to a beginner. So the designer probably did make the right call in putting felt on it, even though I am not a big fan of putting felt on yarn. I don't really have a felt supply that I go back to. I try to make everything with yarn when I can. That being said, there was one part with the thumb right here. I understand why she did that as a separate stitch and sewed it on, but I feel she could have just done it. She could have figured out where the front was supposed to be and just done a popcorn stitch, and it would have had the same effect. Popcorn stitch is pretty simple. If you know how to do a double crochet, you can do the popcorn stitch. The American double crochet. In the UK, that would be like the treble crochet. However, I can't deny the fact that the pattern was successful enough in creating something that looks like what I was trying to create. So in that case, it was a success. Even though the most wonderful thing about Tiggers is that Tiggers are wonderful things. Their tops are made out of rubber. Their bottoms are made out of springs. But the most wonderful thing about Tiggers that makes them fun. The most wonderful thing about Tiggers is that he's the only one. Except he's not, because I'm pretty sure someone else has made this pattern. That was today's entertainment. Have a nice day.